Sa trolley. Mr. Suave. Kain.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Solvang Trolley. Well, my name is Linda, and I'll be the tour guide. You can't tell because I have the microphone. You might want to snuggle with your fur baby so he doesn't go slip sliding under the railing back there. Because one of the safety things is please remain seated at all times. Make sure that you keep your hands and your phones and your cameras and your babies safely inside, because we don't stop if you drop them. And so far today, my record's perfect, even though I only just started. Anyway, do you know, anybody been to Solvang before? All right, so you need to tell me what does Solvang mean.
Solvang.
See, I still have a job. People visit and don't know what Solvang means.
Yeah.
It means Sol, sunny, Vang fields. So you are in the Danish Capital of America in the town of Sunny Fields. And we were named that by our three founders, 2 ministers and a teacher, who came to the west coast of America to found a Danish colony. Now they got
Were they Old Danes?
What?
Were those 3 people Old Danes?
So we were 100% Danish until probably the early 1940s. And we are now down to about 20% Danish. We're not a very big town. We're only 6,000 people here in Solvang. The greater San Ynez Valley is 10,000 people. So how did a bunch of Danes end up in Southern California? Well, back in Denmark in 1890, our 3 founders said, you know, I think we'd like to start a colony on the west coast of America. People are telling us it's kind of nice there. So they got on a boat, got to New York. From New York, they got to the middle of America, a place called Elkhorn, Iowa, and spent about 20 years in Iowa, learning how to speak English, figure out how real estate works, and save some money for buying a land to build a town. They got back on the train in 1909, got to San Francisco, and started coming down the coast. And when they got here to the Santa Ynez Valley in January of 1910, they looked around and went, whoa, Solvang, sunny fields. Now, why would they say that? Well, the important word in all of that is January. Because back in Denmark, like right now, there's about 3 feet of snow in Denmark in January. They had just left close to 10 feet of snow back in Elkhorn, Iowa. Why don't guess how much snow they found here in the San Ynez Valley in January? Yeah, like a big 0 thing. Yeah.
A picture of it.
So they turned to the real estate agents and pretty please, may we have 8,900 acres of the no snow on the ground in January sunny fields.
900?
8,900 acres. So they came back a year later with 30 Danes who'd been living in Elkhorn, Iowa, and 30 Danes from Denmark, and the Danish colony of Solvang was born. Now, I'm what's known as a Solvanger. That means I am from here, but I am not Danish. Now, this style that you see around, this black and brown style, this is called half timber or beamwork style. Very common in 1700s and 1800s Northern Europe, including Denmark. Now, first big secret, I know things because my dad was the mayor here 3 times. So I have roots here, and one of the things that I like to share with people, we did not look like this. We were not this cute until after World War II. The first 40 years the Danes lived here, it looked like every other small town in Southern California. It looked like Old Town San Diego, Old Town LA, parts of like Westwood and parts of Burbank. Because the Danes, when they moved here, there was absolutely nothing here but dirt, 2 oak trees, and Mission Santa Ynez. And when they started building in 1911, 19 teens, 20s, 30s, and 40s, they wanted to match what was going on in Santa Barbara and Los Angeles. They wanted to be modern. Well, 2 of our young men from here go fight World War II. After the war, they go to visit their momos and papas, their relatives in Denmark. They finally get to see what Denmark looks like because they come up here in Southern California. They have no clue. These 2 guys come back, Ray Poska and his friend Ferd Sorensen, and say, look, the Danes did some amazing things fighting the Nazis, and in honor of our Danish heritage, they started building downtown here business district, this area that we locals now call the Village, and started building Danish-style buildings. Well, Danes are very, very competitive, And pretty soon the Danes are trying to out-Danish each other in architecture. And by 1985, this whole downtown area looks like it does now. And so when we became our own city in 1985, my dad was on that city council, they wrote a city charter that says this downtown village must have this half-timber look if you are built or remodeled after 1985. So it is literally the law that everything here on the right-hand side of the trolley, we're now on the northern edge of the village, and a half a block on the left-hand side must look half-timber, must look Danish. Now, in addition to looking Danish, we eat like Danes. And if you look to the left, you'll see the first of our 6 Danish bakeries. This is Olsen's Bakery. It is owned by a Dane named Bent Olsen, who has been here in Solvang 57 years. And if you look on the side of his building or been wandering around town, you may have noticed the symbol for bakery looks kind of like a golden pretzel. That's not a pretzel. That's a kind of pastry known as a kringle. And it's a great big thing shaped about the size of a large pizza, and you use them for parties, you use them for your birthday, your anniversary, your retirement. You don't get a birthday cake, you get a birthday kringle. So if you look here on the right as we go by, you will see Mortensen's Bakery, and you'll see the kringle that means, hi, I'm a bakery. And on top of the bakery, you see crown. The crown means that that bakery has been designated by the Danish Bakers Guild as good enough for the Danish royal family. To be good enough for the Danish royal family, you must be certified as using cake flour, caster sugar, and real butter in your traditional Danish cookies and pastries. The good news is you don't have to worry about which bakeries are royal bakeries. All of the bakeries in Solvang are Royal Crown bakeries. So if you ever wondered why everything tastes so different here, so why our bucket of cookies tastes different than that blue tin thing you get at CVS Pharmacy at Christmas time?
Right.
Yes, because of the ingredients. Now, in addition to looking Danish, eating Danish, we also still do things culturally Danish. So here on the right, this is Solvang Park. This was the very first things built by the Danes, because in a small Danish town, you do everything together as a town. So this is where there's no swing, no slides, not American Park. This is where we do our farmers market every week. We do music in the park, movies in the park, 4th of July, Danish days, Viking encampments, everything is done in the park. So if there's something as a community is going to happen, we do it in the park. Now this is First Street, the First Street in Solvang. So if you look to the left, all of those buildings were some of the first buildings built here. Again, when the Danes showed up here, there was nothing but dirt and Mission Santa Ynez. So underneath this more modern facade is the oldest, second oldest building in Solvang, something called the Mercantile. Back in my day, it was Tower Pizza. Before that, it was a feed store, and before that, it was like our Tractor Supply and Hardware. Now, our buildings are getting an update and they're being modernized. We don't want to, but older buildings are getting a little fragile, and that'll come up a little later. Here on the right, this is a classic shopping courtyard, and that Panino building, those are real bar tiles. That is from the 1930s, what Solvang used to look like. And cool thing about being on the trolley, if you look to the right, that is a true, legitimate thatched roof. And if you've been to Solvang before, did you know that was there? That's been here since the 1980s. So when someone comes to Solvang, I always tell them to look up and look up across the street, because we have all of these details hidden up on our roof lines. We have thatched roof, we have wrought iron wind vanes, and we have a lot of hand-carved wooden storks, because storks mean good luck and prosperity.
In the public rest area, there were a couple of buildings next to it that were also thatched, but they are not old.
No, they're not. All right, the other thing is looking up. Has anybody noticed all the little yellow birdhouses everywhere on the side of buildings? Those are not birdhouses, those are julenissehus, because there's no Santa Claus in Denmark. The julenisse, the Christmas gnomes, bring presents. And traditionally, after Christmas, they go back to the forest where they live. Well, in the town of Solvang, or some of the towns in Denmark, you don't have a forest nearby. So if you want your Christmas presents, you've got to give them apartments to live in. So those are the Christmas gnome houses, the julenissehus. So we have them as good luck all over town. Here in the village, they're brown and yellow. Up on the avenue on Mission, they're blue and white. Now, looking up, if you look across the street, you'll see the Dragon Tower. There are 4 dragons, one for each of the Nordic countries, Finland, Sweden, Norway, and Denmark. This is a friendly version. The original version was built in 1640 by King Christian IV to commemorate his conquering the 4 dragons. Nowadays, it's a symbol of the Nordic brother and sisterhood. So it's a little softer version. And if the other end of the street, you remember the more modernized version of the Mercantile, well, the reason is here on the right. This didn't used to be part of the tour, but this is the water wheel building. This is something from my childhood, and I'm a great-grand. Older buildings like this are getting a little fragile, and we didn't get to that one in time. All right, now if you look to the left, you'll see a building from 1914. That was a home of one of our 3 founders, Professor Hirnschild, still being occupied. And now look to the right, look to the left, and if you've been in Old Town, any place in California, you'll recognize the little Tudor style, the fairy tale style. Here on the left, if you've been in North Hollywood, around the Burbank area, this is a country cottage style, very popular in the 30s and 40s. And here on the right, a classic Mission revival from the 1930s. So this part of First Street is what Solvang used to look like. So now we're on Oak Street, and this is the southern edge of the village. So the village part of Solvang, the part that looks cute and Danish, is about 2 blocks deep, but 8 blocks long, and about 1,500 people of our 6,000 live inside the village. Now, technically, everything on the left-hand side should look Danish. The right-hand side doesn't have to because they're outside the village, but these buildings here on the right and the left are historic buildings, and there are 2 people here who finally know this because I don't have to explain it. These are Sears catalog kit houses because there was nothing here but dirt, so you had to import everything. And the easiest way to import your house, the timber and everything, was to buy it like a Legos kit. So all of these houses came in a single box car. You got everything to build it and furnish it. You got your pots and pans and your linens, all in the same kit. And the reason they all look the same is they bought the same kit. Now, Mission Santa Ynez is still here, so if you look to the right, alongside our post office right here, if you look down through the parking lot, that is the back entrance to the Mission complex. If you're spending the night, there will be mass tomorrow, several of them. And I strongly recommend visiting the Mission. Just walk through that back gate that takes you through their gardens, because Solvang sits up on a hill. And if you go to the front of the sanctuary of the Mission, you can see the entire San Ynez Valley below you. You will see why we are called Sunny Fields.
Okay.
So now if you look to the right, you'll see the big white windmill. We locals named that the Påske windmill because it was built by one of those returning World War II veterans, Ray Påske, and his best friend, Ferd Sorensen. And this whole block here on the right is what started Solvang looking Danish. We always were Danish. We spoke Danish. We have Danish heritage, but we didn't look like Denmark. These 2 guys started building these buildings, especially this little red building called the Vinhus, the wine house, up on top, a mama stork and 2 baby storks. That is kind of what started the whole thing. Now, if you look across the street on the left-hand side, you'll see a bunch of arches. Arches are not Danish. That whole side of the street was built in the 1930s. They're doing their best they can to look Danish. I have to say they're trying. But really what started it is here on the right. So as people started visiting in the early 1970s into the late 80s, people started coming here, and you guys would say, "You're so cute," and you like our bakeries. So that's how we became a tourist town. Now, we have some people here who might be old enough to know this, but did you come in on Highway 101 Highway 101 did not exist through Buellton until 1967. You used to come here on a back road, and it was a very dangerous back road. There also was no bridge on Highway 154. So we were not a big-time drop by and get some cookies kind of place until the 1970s. Now, if you look here on the right, you will see Berkholm's Bakery. They are the oldest bakery in town. They are working now on their 76th year here. They're the same owners. They're on their 4th generation, and Thomas Berkholm is now the head pastry chef. And if you have your trolley ticket, you show at Berkholm's, you get discounts. They have a cute little deli in there as well as their pastries and cookies. So if you're not looking for a full sit-down dinner, that's a great place to stop by. Now here on the right, this is the village of Lillesod. That is 7 little Danish-inspired cottages that will be little B&Bs, a new Danish interfaith chapel, and a new windmill. Now, we are very serious about being Danish here in the village. And we have 2 planning departments, one for all of Solvang and a second one for this area called the Danish Design Review Committee, the DDRC, otherwise known by locals as the Danish Mafia. And if you want to do something, you have to get the blessing of the old Danes. Well, unfortunately, the gentleman who is building this little complex didn't actually build what he promised, and the Danes stopped him last April. I have no clue when it's going to get restarted again, so we'll see. So if you wonder why we continue to look the same on the outside, keep the buildings the way they are, it's because of the DDRC. So I have places here in town that have not changed externally since I was a child, and I'm a great-grandma. So I can honestly say I like the fact that we're maintaining our heritage. The inside might be different, but the outside is still the same. All right, if you look here to the left, you'll see the Book Loft bookstore, and above the Book Loft is the free Hans Christian Andersen Museum. And if you have any kind of interest in fairy tales or Hans Christian Andersen, it's a free museum. They actually have handwritten copies of fairy tales in Hans Christian Andersen's handwriting in Danish, as well as some memorabilia, some beautiful illustrations, some photographs from the early 1800s when he visited America. It's a really sweet, nice little place. They're open 10 to 5 every day. Now, if you look here on the right, you'll see this white building. This was the home of the Nielsen family. It was one of our original founding families. They came to Solvang in 1911. And they were the owners of the Mercantile, the first store in town, and eventually turned into Rasmus and Nielsen's. And the Nielsen family is still here. They're on their 4th generation. So it's pretty amazing. Also, if you've been wandering around town, you may have noticed, in addition to all the things we do have, we are missing some things. We do not have a Starbucks. We do not have McDonald's. We do not have Hard Rock Cafe.
Yeah.
But we do have a Domino's and a Subway. So how did that happen? Well, back when my dad helped write that city charter in the same one that says this downtown has to look half timber, they banned chain hotels, chain restaurants, and chain coffee shops. And Domino's and Subway were here first, so they were grandfathered in. So because we do not have big bucks competition in town, we turned into a food destination because some really famous chefs and some famous coffee roasters have moved to the valley to start restaurants and coffee shops, because they know that they can experiment and do things without having someone like McDonald's breathing down their necks. And because of that, we have turned into a food town, as I said, which means we now have 9 internationally recognized restaurants, 3 Red Bib listed restaurants, 5 Michelin listed restaurants, and 1 Michelin 1-star restaurant in town. We have 200 wineries, 40 tasting rooms, and 26 wines who have won gold medals. So needless to say, I am very, very spoiled here.
200 wineries? Okay. Do they have an international market? Wow.
All right, and if anybody is looking for the Julehus, if you look here on the left, they have been here over 60 years. So if you like to collect Christmas ornaments and such, they have some amazing things in there that come from even before my childhood, which has been a while. All right, if you look here on the right, this is the second of the big white windmills built by Ferd Sorensen and his friend Ray Boske. And what's amazing is this complex has been here since the 50s. I used to have birthday parties as a child inside the windmill. The outside looks the same, but who's inside is different. Again, thank you to the Danish Design Review Committee. And as you look here on the right, you'll see the middle Julenisse horses, which are blue and white. And you'll get a really good view of Olsen's Bakery. Again, your trolley ticket gets you discounts at Olsen's. And Bent Olsen has been here 56 years. And he's famous for something called a flødebolle, which is kind of like a moon pie, which is a Danish cookie, homemade marshmallow fluff, and they drown both of those in Danish chocolate made here by Ingeborg's here in town. So kind of get two of our local traditions in one cookie. And if you're looking for our famous troll, here on the right inside the California Nature Art Museum is Lulu Hughley, and she is a 22-foot troll living in a 14-foot building.
California.
This Danish sculptor goes all over the world building these huge, massive Danish trolls, and we have the only one that lives in a town inside a building. Because in our area, at our altitude, the Los Padres National Forest means tall bushes. You gotta get some altitude to get trees. So she has no trees to live in, which is another reason we have the Umanisahus. We really don't have a forest at this altitude, even though we have the Los Padres National Forest. Alrighty, so now we're back on 5th Street. So you've gone all the way around the village of Solvang, down the middle. And now everything on the left-hand side must look Danish. If it was built or remodeled after 85, the right-hand side is outside the village, so nobody looks Danish because they don't have to.
Is there any prospect for parking to become a fee basis?
We don't charge the price.
Right, and is anybody talking about, oh, look how much money we can make?
The locals who shop live there go, no.
But gosh, no?
Alright, so now we're back again on Oak Street, the southern edge of the village. So the village is 2 blocks deep and 8 blocks long. The left-hand side inside the village, so if you're built after 85, you gotta look Danish. And so here we have the 1930s, 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, and then back to 1985. Everything on the right-hand side was built before 1985, or it's outside the village, so nobody really looks Danish because they don't have to. Now we're going to leave the village for a moment, take you down to my absolute favorite place in all of Solvang, an 18th century Danish-style manor house. And let's be real, you guys are nosy. When you go to a new town, you want to see how the houses look. You might even want to know how much they cost. And if you're lucky, you do it just at dusk before they close the windows, but the lights so you can see inside. We all do it, come on. So we aim to oblige, so we're taking you down here to the neighborhood where the Edinburgh house is located. Now, how do you know if a Dane built a house? It'll have a really, really steep roof because they thought it snowed here. Last time it snowed enough for a snowball fight was 1949, before even I was born. If a Dane is living in a house, it'll probably have a stork on top because to Danes, storks mean good luck and prosperity.
How many islands are there in Denmark? Really?
Alright, if you look to the right, you might see a steep roof and a stork. And if you look at the mailbox, it's even got an itty bitty teeny tiny little stork on top of the mailbox. Because they want good luck with their mail.
Alright.
We have a steep roof and no storks, and then a classic 1950s ranch-style house with 2 storks, which proves you do not have to have Danish architecture to have storks. Just want to have good luck. Alrighty, here is my favorite place in Solvang. This is the Edinburgh. That means elves hill in Danish. And this place is amazing. It's an 18th century Danish style manor house. It is the most authentically built building in all of Solvang. Those are real 6-inch by 6-inch redwood and Douglas fir timbers.
About
every 30 minutes. About every 30 minutes.
Every 30 minutes. How much is this?
18.
Okay, thank you.
Alright, so this was built by a Danish sculptor named Viggo Brandt Eriksson, and he literally wanted this to be so authentic he pretended he and his family were living in the 1700s. So he built this as if it were the 1700s. He built it all by hand, used no power tools, and there are no nails in the whole house. He only used tools and techniques from the 1700s. So it took him 5 years to build it all by hand. That brick was recycled from Mission Santa Ynez, so we know the brick is 1804 or 1814. And he had so much brick that most of the walls in the house are 6 inches thick because he used brick outside and inside the house. And all of the utilities are behind the brick walls, and he used dirt for insulation. It's an amazing building, and it took him 5 years to build. Family lived here for over 30 years. There's a wood stove in the kitchen. I mean, it's an amazing place, but there's a little problem.
Plumbing.
Well, when their mom and dad died, the 3 kids go, nobody wants to live in the 1700s. We can't modernize it because it's a Jenga puzzle. Everything is interconnected. All of these beams are interconnected like Lincoln logs. And you can't find the utilities because they're behind plaster, brick, and dirt. Stud finder won't work because there's no studs. And if you do find the utilities and pull out a brick, all the dirt runs out. And how do you put it back? So rather than trying to remodel the house, which was very difficult, the 3 kids said, look, we can't afford to remodel it. We don't want to sell it. So instead, they very generously turned the Elverhoy house into the Elverhoy Museum. So now a nonprofit runs it for the city of Solvang as our history museum, as an example of 18th century Danish style architecture. Viggo's sculpting studio here on the right is now an art gallery of Danish and Danish inspired art. The roof line goes all the way to the top, so it's a 22-foot tall space with 14-foot tall windows and doors because Viggo did huge statues. The one in the courtyard of his horse Jørn is the smallest one he ever did. Yes, sir.
The bricks that came from the mission, was the mission defunct?
No, the Mission Bell Tower was damaged in an earthquake, and when the Danes moved here, they helped collapse the bell tower, which is where all the bricks came from, and built them a new bell tower.
Okay.
So the Danes and the mission have always had a very close relationship, so that's a good question. So the museum is open from 11 to 5. It's $18, $5 for adults, $4 for seniors. Kids are free. The front and back gardens and the store area are free, but the art gallery and the rest of the history, they have a nice Viking display with chainmail, a helmet, knives,